Hi, what's up guys, it's T here, and Ubisoft just announced via their press release that they will be delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows as well as a couple of other things. In the statement they said, additionally as part of the renewed focus on gameplay quality and engaging day one experience, it has been decided to provide an additional month of development to Assassin's Creed Shadows. This additional time will allow the team to better incorporate the players' feedback gathered over the past 3 months and help create the best conditions for launch by continuing to engage closely with the increasing positive Assassin's Creed community. The game is now scheduled for March 20th. But what's actually important is that within the same statement, they said that their Q3 earnings were lower than previously expected. To say that the next release from Ubisoft is important is a complete understatement. The next Ubisoft release won't just determine the company's direction, but their financial stability for the foreseeable future, unless it's a commercial hit. Assassin's Creed Shadow cannot just do well commercially, it will have to do extremely well, probably reaching the heights of Assassin's Creed Valhalla when it was released, and even then it may not be enough. In short, Ubisoft need a miracle. It's only been like a couple of years ago when Ubisoft were considered to be one of the best game studios in the industry, with IPs such as Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, Rayman, Prince of Persia, Far Cry, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, as well as Rainbow Six, with the list going on and on. Ubisoft was known as that company that released great games year in, year out. It seemed that there was a hit that came out every single year from Ubisoft, which is kind of ironic because that's probably one of the reasons that they're suffering problems right now, but I'll speak about that later. And then it just seemed like all of a sudden, the magic seemed to stop.
I mean, what happened? Your balls drop off?
Which, by the way, correction, it wasn't just a sudden falling off. There was obviously substantial reasons behind the fall off. I mean, we don't have to look too far. If you just look at the last couple of releases from them, you have Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, a game that was generally well received by gamers and critics alike, with its fantastic level design, surprisingly well constructed boss battles, and overall great gameplay. However, it fell short commercially due to a massive budget as well as other factors which I'll highlight later that made the 1 million copies sold seem like a letdown. Speaking of other factors, you have Skull and Bones. Oh lord, Skull and Bones. The first quadruple A game, by the way, and that's not even my words, that's from the CEO himself. And to be honest, you're setting your game up for failure when you just give it such overdramatic titles. If they had just kept it simple and said, guys, we're releasing this great game and we hope you have a great experience with it, then gamers would come out with a certain expectation and say, yeah, why not? Let's try this game, let's see whether it's good or not. But you come out with a statement saying, we're gonna deliver you the first quadruple A game. Like, The game cost $70 when it first came out, which was and is still much more higher than most AAA games nowadays. I'm sorry, my mistake. It was the first quadruple A game. Makes sense. The game was so poorly designed and had so many bugs and glitches that you have videos comparing the game with Assassin's Creed Black Flag, a game that came out 11 years before it. Not to mention that the game cost Ubisoft between $650 to $800 million to make. So it's not surprising to anyone that the game was a massive failure. If you look at Ubisoft's latest AAA entry in Star Wars Outlaws, again with an extreme budget that ranged between 200 to 300 million, all to get this. To put it all into perspective, these games were overpriced, half-baked, and most of them didn't play well or bring any innovation to their customers, who felt that despite the clear DI initiatives being pushed into their games, most of them their beloved franchises, there were numerous of reasons not to buy these games. And worst of all, from the company side, these budgets were just ludicrous. Which brings me back to the point that I made early on in the video where I said Ubisoft were known as the company that released hits year in, year out, which looking back at it now seems to have been far too much for the company, because if you take most game companies within the industry, there's normally, don't quote me on this, like a 3 to 5 year gap between a AAA release, which now is probably one of the main reasons why they're in dire situation. Assassin's Creed Shadow will be the next game Ubisoft release, and as we all know, there's been so much tension surrounding the game at the moment. I'm not going to talk about all that's happened with the game up to now and how much hate it's received, as I think there's enough videos on YouTube to highlight that already, but what I will talk about is how Ubisoft responded to it. I want to preface my comments by saying I like the majority of Ubisoft games, and I hope that somehow they're able to turn this situation around, because they've made mistakes, dumb mistakes.
Greed cannot rule this village, not while I have breath in my lungs and a blade in my head. I said kill him.
Brought to you by... You get in a car with them, they turn on the hip-hop channel, and then they look at you. This one's for you.
But they saw that the current direction that the game was going at wasn't going to make it a success, so they refunded all the pre-orders for the game that the gamers had made, and they went back to it, which I thought was a massive W to acknowledge your mistake, because they know that they cannot afford for this game to be a failure. And based on the current gameplay that I've seen, they're moving in the right direction. The truth is, when a company is talking about pursuing capital options and how their Q3 earnings were less than what was expected, then that's a bad sign. That's a red flag moment, even to a layman like me. And if we're talking about looking at the share prices, all common logic tells you that the situation is extremely bad. That's why Ubisoft can't afford for Assassin's Creed Shadow to have just great sales. It has to be exceptional, close to abnormal even. If you want to put into perspective, Assassin's Creed Valhalla sold over 20 million copies and generated $1 billion for Ubisoft, making it the most successful release in the series and the second most profitable game ever to be released by Ubisoft. And even if somehow AC Shadow is able to meet those numbers, that still may not be enough, especially considering that those numbers were generated over the course of the game's lifetime and not just its initial release. And if we want to be completely honest, most gamers will be going into this game with a negative expectation. Based on the discourse surrounding the game, most of it justifiably so. But the truth is that this game will be facing an uphill challenge from day one, with every mistake being examined and blown up. And you may look at that and you may say, that's unfair. It's unfair that a game is being systematically taken down before it's even released. But that's reality.
Get out of here. That's not fair.
Fair? What are you talking about fair? Oh, God's fair. They don't give a shit about fair.
And no one knows this better than Ubisoft themselves. They know they cannot afford for this game to be a failure. That's why they took it back, and that's why they're working on it to make the best game that they possibly can, because they know that even if they're able to do that, that still may not be enough. My prediction, hey, I believe that Assassin's Creed will sell well. I think it will sell into the millions. I really think that this game will do well in sales. Whether it's double figures, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I just don't see it being enough. In a recent post, Jason Schreier mentioned an Assassin's Creed Shadow hit would buy some time for Ubisoft, but a flop would see a whole reorganization of the company with a buyout or sell most likely. Now that's coming from a guy who's considered to be the most plugged individual within the gaming industry and other experts backing him up. And who am I? I'm just some guy making YouTube videos trying to get you to subscribe so I can make a career in doing what I love. Please subscribe, by the way. But seriously, even if you were to take out all the drama surrounding this game, the mismanagement of the company and its ideals, the bad game design, the proactive choice to reject all feedback from gamers, the poor execution of several products up to date, even including this one, especially with the rescheduling of the release date to March 20th. Not the most pleasant day in Japan's history. If you want to know, you can find out. But even if you take out all of that, I still don't think it'll be enough to prevent Ubisoft from collapsing. But what do I know? I may be completely wrong. But hey, that was my take. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. And until next time, stay blessed. Peace.